In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I edited this picture I took of the Black Church in Iceland. I was hosting a photography workshop there 2 weeks ago, and I come across this particular angle of the church, which I very rarely see. And I wanted to get something a little bit different, so I moved round to the front. This is actually looking out towards sea, and the car park is just over my right hand shoulder. So if you ever go there, check out this angle because I think it works really, really well. I wanted to make something a little bit different, a little bit moody, just to kind of emphasize the blackness of the church. So let me walk you through the process of what I've done. So the first thing that I'd done was I'd done a series of shots, and you can see here I've got some exposures that I'm played with. So the first thing I did was hold down the shift key on all of them, right click, and then select photo merge, HDR, and then that created this HDR file here. Now the reason why I've done that is because I wanted to retain a lot of detail in that sky. I wanted to bring out the best possible exposure that I could. So I shot this at 100 ISO, f11 at 1600th of a second, and I was using a 14mm lens, so really wide. So the next thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to get rid of any distractions. Now there are one or two here, as you can see, there's people around, and this caught my eye as well, which was the main gate into the church, and I wanted to get rid of that. I made the decision to get rid of that. You may not want to, and that's absolutely fine. But the reason why I got rid of it was because I wanted to try and create as much symmetry as possible, and this was stopping that. So I'm just using the new removal tool within Lightroom. So yeah, it's done a really, really good job, as you can see. The other distractions there that need to get rid of are the people. So yeah, I'm gonna quickly go in and do them as well. And you can see there's 3 or 4 people there. There was someone down here. No, they're gone. So I'm going to click apply and just get rid of them. So that's done a really good job. The other distractions that were on here that I wanted to get rid of was up here. So there's a boat on the horizon, and also I ended up coming back later and getting rid of this little bit of island that's there, just because it stopped the eye on the horizon, and I didn't want that. I want to make sure that the eye didn't have any anchor points to sort of grab to. Just click apply onto that. That's helped a lot. So the other distractions, as you can see, if you look at the wall, so this is a stone wall, and it's got these metal ties that are just holding the top of the grass onto the wall. So I did end up getting rid of them as well, just because I didn't want any of the viewer's eye to be pulled down. And these triangles are quite strong shapes, so I didn't want people to be distracted with that. I'm going to use generative AI again just to get rid of these, and I don't want to overwhelm the program. Sometimes I've selected quite a lot of selections, and the program has said that the generative AI has failed, and I'm just assuming that's because there's too much information there for it to handle at the minute, because it is a work in progress. There we go. So let's move on to the next. Let's just see if Lightroom can handle more than 3 at a time. It's done it. So let's do the final 2. So there's one there, and there's a little bit of one there. So let's click apply to that. So just press enter. It's okay to that. So now we've got rid of distractions and anything that's going to cause the eye to wander. The next thing I want to do is sort out the distortion. So let's come down to the bottom. And the first thing I want to do is sort out the vertical distortion that's there. So I'm going to bring that down until the lines of the side of the church here are straight, just so that I know that it's perfect. So yeah, that looks good. And then I'm going to click constraint crop, and that will save me having to worry about any other white areas at the bottom there. You may want to just tweak and play this. I did spend a little bit of time pushing and pulling this just to make sure it is perfect. So yeah, as you can see there, I had to pull that down actually a little bit more. So now we've done that, what I'm going to do is come up to the lens correction, and I'm going to sort the distortion out because I shot on a 14mm lens, so I need to just allow for that. So I'm going to push this up to about 25. There we go. And maybe just try it a little bit more. So I think it's around, actually it's around 20, around there. That's good. So you can see what that's done is just got rid of that distortion there, and then obviously we've transformed the converging verticals there. Okay, so now we've done that, the next thing is coming up to the top and creating a 16:9 crop. So this is going to give us a bit more of a wider angle look. So I'm going to pull this out a little bit and just pull this line up onto the edge of the church there, of the roof, so that it sits nice and perfect. So I'm going to hit enter to that, and that's starting to look a little bit more symmetrical now, isn't it? So the next thing is to come up to selection tool, and what I want to do is I want to make a selection on this select object, and all I'm going to do is paint over the church. There we go. So that's given us a really, really good selection. And I'm going to just pull the shadows up a little bit, not too much, but just enough, just so that it doesn't become a black mess, because it is quite dark, and the color that I'm going to add to this later on will make it go darker. So let's now add some color to this. So I used my own preset that I created. So it was this one here. It's the brown and dark preset that I created. So you can see that it gives a bit of a cinematic look to it. Okay, so now I've done that, I want to just tweak and play with the picture. So I'm going to bring the exposure down a little bit, and I'm going to address the sky separately in a minute. I'm just going to bring these shadows down, and you can see that's why I wanted to brighten the church in the first place, just so it doesn't go too dark. But I do want to make this a dark and moody image, so I want to bring these blacks down as well. So somewhere like that, I think that's enough just to darken it down a little bit. So the next thing then, because we've done that, is coming back in and just lightening these windows, because they've gone a little bit too dark and they are the central point. So let's create a mask, and I'm going to create select objects just because it's easy, it's quick. Click on the window there, and I'm just going to pull the exposure up to about half a stop, somewhere around there. I'm going to add to that again, select object, and add to that again, objects, to the window, so we get the same exposure, and then we can just tweak all three to our own liking. So I'm going to bring the whites out a little bit on that as well, and press enter. That's looking good. So you can see as well, once I've added the preset, it has again messed around with some of the vertical distortion there. You can see within that I've not included the transform within that preset, so it's gone back to where it was. So I just need to pull that back down. There we go. That's just corrected everything again, and let's just check this distortion, because that's moved back to the original as well. So I think it's about there. That's it, and constraint crop. There we go. So then windows then are just a little bit brighter, and I think that helps just make it pop a little bit. So if we look, you can see the windows go from there to there, so they do look a little bit better. just popping out of that color a little bit more. So the next thing then is I want to isolate the sky. So I'm going to create a new mask and select sky. So the sky then, I want to make this the star of the show. So I just want to play around with this until I get a sky that I'm really, really happy with. Now I'm not going to get this exactly the same as the original image that I'd done because I spent a long time just tweaking that. But I'm just going to do this just to give you an idea. So all I'm doing is by eye. I'm not worried about clipping or anything like that because there's not enough whites or anything in that region for it to be overexposed. Because it has a high dynamic range picture, we can get away with quite a lot. So you just want to adjust this to your own personal liking, and I think I went with something like this. It was quite dark and moody. And then the main thing that I always do on all my images is use the tone curve, because this is going to add contrast. When you add contrast, you add depth. So depth is colorblind. It's all done through tones, so the blacks, the grays, and the whites. So I think somewhere around there. But let's just double check this. Yep, that looks really good to me. The other thing that I'm going to add is a radial. So up to this section up here, and just pull that exposure up a little bit to around there. Press OK to that. So that gives us a really nice little bit of light there. You can see where that's the sun. So I might just take that out. I'm going to use the spot healing brush tool and just say OK to that. So it's just taking the edge off a little bit. So the next thing I want to do is make another selection. I want to just bring out some detail in the tops of this grass up here. So I'm going to make sure that my flow and density is really low. The feather is at 100, and I just want to paint in around the top there. So I'm going to click the overlay on just so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller, I think. And it's just this top area here. Here we go. So it's just that section there that I need to address. So if I take the overlay away, I can then just bring the exposure up and bring the highlights up a little bit. And that's enough just to bring the detail out on this section here. I'm going to come back down and again address some of this distortion because I don't think it's quite there yet. So I'm going to bring this down to -50. I think that's much better, isn't it? So yeah, I've done that several times on this shot. It's when you think it's correct, it just needs a little bit more. So the next thing then is adding another mask, and I added a radial, and what I'd done was just come down to the bottom here, and I just pulled the exposure down a little bit. And the reason why is I just want that to gradate into darkness. I still need some of this to make sense, so there still needs to be some detail there, which we can see, but it can't be so dark that it just blends into nothing. So it gradates into that ever so slightly. And then if I come down to the bottom here, I can add a little bit more color, noise reduction, and luminance, just a little bit. Just poke that up a little bit. And you can see that this does have a vignette on it, because if I take the vignette away, you can see what that does. So it does help bring the eye in, and changing that midpoint, just bringing it further in. There we go. That's much better. And I'm just going to bring this crop back and just make sure that we are definitely on that bottom line there, which I think is good. I might just bring that in a little bit more, because what I'm thinking, so if I pull this in, is I'm looking now at the church roof, and it's the gap between there and there. I want that to be even, so I think it's around there. That's much better. So that then means that we get this perfect line coming across there. That gives us a symmetrical look. So let's come back up to the top, and we can now just tweak the overall image. So we're not necessarily thinking about the sky and the church as separate, just the whole image in general. So I'll probably just bring them shadows up a little bit more. And actually, I think on the original, I did get rid of that sun there. So let's do that. That looks much better. Okay, and let's just bring this clarity down a little bit. And there we go. So that's how I've done it. That's how I edited this particular shot. You can see the original edit that I've done here on the left, and then this one I've just done with you guys. So you can see actually I've taken out a lot of the blue that's within that sky, so we could address that and get a completely different look. So it was just the white balance, I believe, and also some of this saturation, so we could just balance it out on vibrancy just to get that a little bit closer to what I'd done originally. It was somewhere around there. There we go. So that's how I've done it. That's how I edited the image. I did spend quite a bit of time on this particular image. So the edit that you see had a lot done to it. I think I have addressed it a little bit more with this distortion. I'm really bad at getting distortion and levels and luminance right. Not luminance, sorry. The distortion and transform right. I'm really bad. All the pictures in my house are wonky. Just tweaked that and tweaked it until I was really happy with it. That's a little bit better now, and it looks a little bit more like the original image that I've done. And yeah, I've addressed that sky a little bit. I've taken out some of that yellow, definitely, in that sky. So I've just played around until I'm really happy with it. And you can see here, look, I just push some of that blue up there. That gets us a little bit closer to what we was getting, and then just pull some of this yellow out. Yeah. So that's how I've done it. That's how I got this particular image and edited it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's given you a few little tips and tricks. But if you're ever in the vicinity, then definitely do go and take a picture of this church, because it is beautiful. And if you go there at the right time where the sun is directly above, you can get a really nice shot. So I hope you enjoyed that. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.